Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corbin here. Excited to have you with us on the podcast. It's brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software. And we also have a great clean bus tip from Clean Spray Technologies, laboratory-proven onboard automated infection control system. Also, Miss Taylor Hannon in just a bit. It's going to be talking with Wendy Moore, Superintendent at Genesee Joint School District number 282 in Idaho. And rumor is she's also driving a school bus, so that's pretty interesting. And also, I have to mention my awesome co-host, Mr. Ryan Gray. Welcome, Ryan.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's great to be back. Hey, you were talking about Wendy Moore in Idaho. Really looking forward to that conversation. So much has been, said and written about the driver shortage and transportation directors who are assigning themselves routes. Superintendents, that's pretty rare that you find them behind the wheel. So Wendy, she loves it. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing what she has to say about that.
Yeah, speaking of superintendents, I know the AASA had their Superintendent of the Year awards, and we are featuring some superintendents coming up in our April edition. So you guys keep an eye out for that. So lots happening on the administrative side. We've got some great interviews and conversations headed your way with regards to that. But also, in case you haven't picked up the magazine, be sure and grab the new March issue. It's out. It's on the street. If you haven't got it in the mail yet, check that mailbox, or you can go to stnonline.com to get the latest and greatest issue. And also, don't forget STN Expo. It's coming up real soon, guys. Ryan and I and the team have been working diligently on getting the conference all together. You'll notice the agenda is up on both STN Expo Indianapolis and STN Expo Reno. We also have our super early bird ending for Reno in April. So make sure and lock in that savings, save 300. And then Indy, if you guys missed the super early bird, we still have the early bird registration to save 100. STN Expo Indy is June 3rd through the 7th in Indianapolis, and STN Expo Reno, guess what? Reno, Nevada, and July 15th through the 20th. Go to stnexpo.com to check that out. Before we dive into the headlines, we have a special clean bus tip from Clean Spray Technologies, the laboratory-proven onboard automated infection control system. Take it away.
At Clean Spray Technologies, our mission is to use science and technology to provide efficient and effective automated methods for mitigating human exposure to harmful pathogens by cleaning the air we breathe and the surfaces we touch. Using our laboratory research and scientific data, Clean Spray scientists ensure only the highest quality disinfectant products. Our laboratory-tested botanical disinfectants and proprietary delivery systems are designed for use in school buses, shuttle buses, and other transit vehicles. The Clean Transit automated infection control system works on an automatic cycle. With customized installation, Clean Transit eliminates human error and ensures thorough coverage throughout the vehicle. With Clean Transit, you can give your riders, drivers, and parents the peace of mind they've always wanted.
All right, guys, you can also learn more about Clean Spray at cleansprayusa.com. All right, Ryan, let's jump into the headlines. I know we had some big ones on masks. We saw some lawmakers winning awards. We've seen EV bus deployments. There's a lot happening this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the big news was made actually the end of February 25th. CDC came out and updated its guidance for wearing masks on school buses. And I think, Tony, you've been just, keep pleading every week, it seems, for, when can we call this an endemic?
It's true.
And I think we're about as close as we've ever been. CDC said, hey, you can take your masks off on school buses. That is officially the law of the land now, catching up with a lot of states that have been telling their citizens they don't have to wear masks indoors. A lot of schools now have said that masks are no longer required. CDC now has updated that along with some other guidance that it had previously rolled out there in February about indoor masking. So I'm kind of bringing all that together. So it kind of jives with each other. But you got to keep in mind, still local school districts, local counties can still do what they want. But I think it definitely is a much appreciated and much anticipated development where I think folks are thinking, okay, we're getting to the point now where we know we have to live with this thing. And, we can't be masked and hunkered down forever. And you're seeing that coming out of Washington, D.C. as well, too, the Biden administration, even with the State of the Union address last week. Definitely the conversation has shifted to living with this and other infectious diseases. We can't just hide away. We can't be masked for the rest of our lives. So in looking over a lot of the states, I mean, it seems like basically everyone aside from Hawaii is ending their school mask mandate. So California, Oregon, and Washington State have been among the most strict with their mask mandates, and especially at school. We know that starting next week, the students won't have to wear them. But again, keep in mind that you are gonna find pockets of places that are going to continue to require masks, and a lot of that has to do with the levels. So that's part of the CDC guidance update as well. Is in low and medium risk areas where those community levels of COVID-19 rates are lower, definitely you can take the mask off. But CDC is still recommending that in those high levels, which Los Angeles County being one of them, Tony, that they still recommend that people wear masks indoors. But as we've seen again, it's definitely been interesting walking into the supermarket or different restaurants and not necessarily just seeing the people taking their masks off at the table, but just walking in without masks. It kind of takes you took me aback for a second, Tony. But it's definitely here. It's almost springtime. So very welcome news.
Yeah, I'm ready to close the door on the mask topic. I feel like that one's been beaten to death. So we're done with that one. Let's just toss that one out. Hallelujah. Let the masking end,
and hopefully they don't come back. I mean, again,
True.
Things have been so reactionary, and I'm just I think the writing on the wall right now, or the hope is that, again, with all of these developments and the conversation changing out of Washington, D.C. and different states, is that, okay, we're not going to, just because we see the next spike, and there's going to be, I think that we're going to see other variants out there, and people are going to continue to get sick from this thing. But that we don't fall back to the old ways, if you will, of rushing back and grabbing your masks and freaking out about that stuff.
Yeah, one other thing that I'm freaking out about, Ryan, is fuel prices. I know we have been seeing the White House just get beaten up by the reporters in the press room saying, hey, can we turn on domestic production? What about oil, Russia and Ukraine? If you don't think it has an impact, it definitely is going to have an impact on fuel prices. And, I saw some reports saying that we were seeing the largest fuel increases. Basically, if you think pre-pandemic, I remember when the pandemic hit, it was like you could fill up at the pump for, $2 or less. Now it's double, almost triple in some places. So I think there's a lot of pain coming on people's fuel budgets and a lot of belt tightening. And I think this is probably going to only amplify the conversation around alternative energy. And we've got our Green Bus Summit coming up at STN Expo in Reno, where this is going to be the topic du jour, right? Like, how are fuel prices that are escalating so high to levels we've never seen before? What does that really mean for districts, and what are the outcomes going to be? So very curious about that. What's your take on that, Ryan?
Yeah, well, I think we have the school bus aspect, of course, and we've talked about in the past hedging your fuel. Something that maybe we've seen a little bit more in the private sector traditionally. Boy, any school districts or anybody who was able to hedge their fuel and lock in at rates of a year ago, they're looking pretty good right now. But I think it's something it's to think about, as well as we've seen so many school districts turn to paying parents to drive their kids, whether it's regarding the school bus driver shortage or, that's been a fairly common practice when it comes to transporting special needs, what does that mean? It kind of depends on how they're paying parents, right? I think that goes by from a district to district level. And then you have a lot of alternatives out there. So you have, of course, the traditional yellow school bus. It's either in-house or outsourced. But we've had this precipitous rise in these different alternate modes. A lot of transportation network companies now signing contracts with districts. What are those contracts based on? Probably a lot of times the fuel, right? And the mileage. How's that going to affect? So, I think it's, we're going to continue to see how this plays out. And, but there's a lot of aspects to fuel. What's getting lost in this fuel discussion is what's going on over there in Ukraine. And hopefully that comes to an end very soon, without getting into, we're not a military podcast, but certainly that's the underlying issue there. Is there's a lot of folks that are really hurting, both in the Ukraine and a lot of that area. So we really hope that first of all comes to an end very quickly.
Yeah, I know Biden was asking OPEC and OPEC nations to increase production to try to get the prices down, but it's just not happening. And they keep saying no. And so I don't know by the time this comes out, what will happen, but definitely I know there's a halo effect. When price of oil goes up, any derivative of oil goes up. And that would be vinyl, anything like tires, anything that plastics are made of, anything plastic component wise. And we already are seeing huge price increases because of supply chain, supply and demand issues, chip shortages. All these things are just going to cause the prices to keep going up and up. And it's kind of scary, frankly, because I don't know, it's this, how do you budget for something that's such a moving target and it's so volatile? I feel like we went from just very good in that 2019 to COVID, where a lot of unknown and hey, everybody's ready to get back to it. And then we've got all this kind of aftermath that's playing out. So, if you guys are budgeting and looking at everything, because hey, July is going to roll around. I know you're probably all looking at your budgets right now, trying to look at what you're going to do. You got to keep very mindful of what is kind of ahead of us with these price increases and the effect of oil on everything. So Ryan, I know we had some awards. The Child Safety Network had given out some awards to our friends in Colorado. What was kind of the update on that? What did we win the awards for?
Well, of course, we just put the bow on School Bus Safety Week in February. Love the bus month, if you will. So the Child Safety Network, if you're not aware of what that organization is, it's the leading safety organization for children and youth, and it's been around for over 3 decades. They've done a lot of work regarding missing children and those kind of things. And what we know them for in this industry, of course, is they have the CSN Safe Bus. So they've gotten involved with student transportation. And so I know they have done a lot of work in Colorado, working with the Colorado Department of Education and working with TSA on a federal level to make sure that there's training for security and whatnot. So, what they did is they announced the 2022 Colorado Safe Student Protection Awards. So that was at the Colorado Association of School Boards Winter Legislative Conference a couple of weeks ago. They were, identifying some local legislators. So, it's very important. Of course, folks are always trying to get school bus recognized and trying to go to their local or their federal legislators to make sure that school bus is mentioned. So want to applaud the work of the folks out there. Honored were Senate Education Chair Rachel Zenzinger, House Education Chair Barbara McLaughlin, Senator Don Coram, and Representative Mark Catlin. So congratulations to them. Thank you so much for advocating for school bus. And certainly, if you guys want to learn more about Child Safety Network, go to csn.org. That's csn.org, and you can learn more about those programs and how you can get involved.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate those headline updates. Guys, I want to bring you up to date. Routing software, parent app, driver app, TransFinder's got it. It's called the TransFinder trifecta. That's Route Finder Plus, Stop Finder, Wayfinder, 3 solutions that work seamlessly together. But wait, there's more. Inventory management solution, location intelligence, the most accurate maps on the planet. You guessed it, TransFinder's got it. It's the all-in-one solution provider for school transportation departments, period. They're the leader in everything having to do with school transportation. With more than 3 decades of experience working with over 3,000 school districts in North America, TransFinder has seen it all. They've built a solution around what their clients need and want, and sometimes never even knew they wanted. They get you, and they've got this. Email them at getplus@transfinder.com or give them a call at 800-373-3609 to learn more. All right, Taylor is talking with Wendy coming up next. Looking forward to it.
All right. Hey, guys, it's Taylor. It's great to be back on the podcast. I am here with Wendy Moore. She is the superintendent of Genesee Joint School District, number 282 in Idaho. So hello, Wendy. Welcome.
Hi, Taylor. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, I'm excited. We have a great conversation lined up for you guys today.
Well, great.
So what's interesting about Wendy is she is not only a superintendent, guys, she's also a substitute school bus driver. So she was actually recommended to me by the transportation director, and he's like, oh my gosh, my superintendent is awesome. Like, she's out there driving a school bus. So we had to get her on. I interviewed her for the April issue, so that'll be coming out next month as well. But had to get her on the podcast. So I'm super excited that you're here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So why don't we start by, telling us a little bit about yourself? Did you always want to be a superintendent? What did your career path kind of look like?
So I had to laugh when I first read that question because no, I never wanted to be a superintendent. So it's just sort of fell into my lap at the point in time in my life and my career. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I mean, I come from a family of educators. My mom was a teacher, growing up. My aunt was, my grandmother was. So I knew ever since I was little, I was going to be a teacher. So I knew I was on that path. Taught preschool, kindergarten, and second grade for 13 years and absolutely loved it. And then we were looking at possibly moving. At that time, I lived in Michigan. We were looking at possibly moving to the Upper Peninsula. And so I started looking for administrative jobs and took an elementary principal position that was in a neighboring district to get my feet wet and get some experience. And I was there for 3 years. And then my home district called and said, we would like you to come here. And so then I went to my home district where I graduated from high school and became the elementary principal. And then I had been there exactly 2 months, and the superintendent announced his resignation and said he was resigning, that the district was in financial trouble. So then the board decided, I'd been 2 months on the job, and the board decided we couldn't afford to hire an outside superintendent, and they wanted an internal candidate. So I threw my name in the ring. High school principal and I both applied for the position, and I was fortunate enough to receive the position. So I became an elementary principal and superintendent.
Oh, man.
And I have now, this is my 17th year in a dual role like that. So I moved to Idaho. This is my 11th year here at Genesee and came as elementary principal superintendent. So, and then, yes, I did take the leap of faith and got my CDL this year, and have been substitute bus driving as well this year. So
you certainly have your hands full.
Yes. Every once in a while, a day gets a little crazy. So
yeah, I can imagine. Okay. And then can you tell us a little bit about Genesee? I think you guys are a pretty small district, so you're able to work those dual roles.
Yep. So we are a small district. We're very rural. So we actually sit between the towns of Moscow and the town of Lewiston, about 15 miles north and south of us. So both have colleges and universities. So, we have a lot of people. We're more of a bedroom community than anything. So we are very agricultural. So a lot of our industry is farming locally. So I have 280 students K through 12, or a single building K through 12. So again, there's 2 administrators. So I'm the superintendent, elementary principal, and then my other administrator, Mr. Caldwell, serves as the high school principal and athletic director. So we all have multiple roles in our district. So we actually cover 180 square miles. So not a huge area, but at time it can take some time to get kids all home, from the different points. So we don't run a lot of buses, so our routes tend to be a little bit longer.
I think you told me, but how many school bus routes are you guys running?
So we're currently running 4 this year.
Okay.
So we're looking at possibly going down to 3 next year. So
okay.
Usually we see the numbers sort of fluctuate a little bit when spring sports are in, because we have a high number of participation of our students that participate in sports. So, and it seems like there's always some sport going on. So most of my bus riders at night are my elementary students. My secondary students are pretty much involved in activities, beyond the school day, and they're still here.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
And so, dual roles, but you're also a substitute school bus driver. So what was your reaction when the transportation director came to you and said, you know what, we need you to get your CDL, will you be a school bus driver?
So he actually started, I'm going to say pestering, because that's what it was 2 years ago. Then he kept stepping in. Are you ready yet? Are you ready? We really needed substitute bus drivers. And then COVID hit. And so it's, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I said, there was a few stipulations. Number one was it had to work around my schedule. I said, my meetings here at school take priority. So I have to do, there are certain meetings I can't change, and I just cannot be flexible 100% of the time. And then I said, the other thing is, my days are usually 10, 11-hour days. And I said, I just am not interested in doing athletics at nighttime, because I usually come into work about 6 a.m. and I go home about 5 in the afternoon. But so I tend to be the early bird. I don't mind driving morning routes. I actually enjoy that time of the day. So, to drive a morning route is pretty easy for me before school day begins. And then the next couple months, I'm already scheduled for quite a few days because we have spring sports. So one of my regular bus drivers will be driving sports, and then I'll take their evening route and drive the kids home at the end of the day.
Okay. So, you seem like you're picking up a couple routes here and there as things come along.
Yeah. And Jeff has been very good about telling me ahead of time. So I always know 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time if we're going to need somebody, so I can just build it into my schedule, which makes it a lot more easy for me to manage that way. Mm-hmm.
So were you guys pretty short, or, are you still pretty short on drivers?
We had some retirees and things like that. So I think that caused it. And then COVID, we had trouble filling positions in every field, from custodial to just parapros, whatever we could do. So we knew we were short bus drivers, and we had some veterans who wanted to take vacations in the winter and, things like that. And that I completely understand. I said, I don't mind if I can help out, doing it. And honestly, it was sort of to an advantage. COVID worked both positive and negatively for us in this situation, because we were actually at a point where we were limiting the number of people to attend athletic events and things like that. So I could literally say to parents, if you want to guarantee that you can get in the gym and watch your kid play, bus drivers are necessary people, so they get to go in the gym.
I love it.
And
I love it.
That did entice a couple of our dads, to sign up and said, yeah, I want to be able to go watch my daughter play basketball or my son play football. And so they have since signed up to drive those routes. And, we've been flexible. We have one gentleman who loves boys baseball and said, I'll take all the boys baseball. And I have one dad that said, I'll take all the boys football. And so that's been a godsend. Just even if they would pick up one sport for us, we can depend on them to do those. And that really helps us out a lot as well.
Mm-hmm. And then has your driving maybe even encouraged some more community members to maybe step in? Because they're like, oh man, superintendent is driving. It must be a bad shortage.
I think I've made a couple feel guilty by doing it. So, and we did have some community members, that kids are no longer in school, but they work, here in town still at different companies. And they're like, I could drive an evening route where I need to, or I have a dad who can get Fridays off and is able to drive on Fridays. So I do think it has really helped our sub pool. I think there's 5 of us now that we can call, for being a district our size, that's a pretty good size number. But there's 5 of us that can pretty much take evening routes or morning routes if we need to.
That's good. And Jeff was saying when I was talking to him earlier that when you show up to work, in the morning, you're just one of the school bus drivers. You're there drinking your coffee, joking around with everyone. And so it's helped the transportation department morale, like seeing you out there, being able to interact with you on a different level, essentially.
And I think it has, truly. I mean, and it's true. I do go in and sit there and drink my coffee with them in the morning and talk a few minutes before we have to go out on our runs. But it's just been sort of neat to get to know them on a more personal level. I mean, because before I did that, I wouldn't necessarily stop at the bus garage unless I had something to drop off or to pick something up to bring up to the main building. And so I didn't really see my bus drivers other than pick up or drop off here at school. So probably the most important thing is to get to know them more on a personal level. And then the other thing, to do training with them has been very interesting this year, because I've been doing the required trainings and, things like that. Jeff tries to give me enough time ahead of time so I can schedule it. But it's been neat to go to the bus driver trainings and just hear those kind of things that bus drivers think about or have to deal with or worry about that I don't think I would ever be privy to if I hadn't done this. So I think it's been a real eye opener in some areas, for me as an administrator as well.
Mm-hmm. And I know you were telling me earlier is that, a lot of times transportation departments are off of the actual school campus. So it's hard for administrators to make the time or to even, realize they need to make the time to go over there and be seen.
Right. And it's, some of the things, and I can say, and it's really not much different than a teacher that I can say to kids, if they come to my office, they've been in trouble. And there's certain teachers that never send kids to the office. So, if a kid comes to your office from that classroom, they've really pushed and pushed and pushed. And so drivers are the same thing. If I have a driver that pulls over and said, hey, could you talk to so-and-so? I mean, I know those drivers have put up with a ton before they've asked me to talk to the kid. So that's been very good too, to get to know their more personality, who's the more patient ones. And it's just been nice also to be able to convey that information. If I know kids are struggling here at school with certain things, I can key drivers into that too, to say, this is what's going on. Just, be a little softer this week or be a little more patient, things like that. So yeah, I think it's a good situation to be in. I think I've learned a lot by it.
Mm-hmm. And I know, you kind of talked about it with me earlier too, but switching it from the student perspective, how does driving a school bus give you a little bit more insight into a child's life?
It's funny because I was just talking to a student today at lunch and she's like, when are you driving my bus again? I said, you know what? I'm scheduled to drive your bus pretty soon. And she's like, well, now you know where I live. And they're just so excited that I get to know them on a personal level, and they're telling me who their dogs are that are meeting us out at the bus or the bus stop. And sometimes it just gives you good insight to see where a kid comes from by seeing their home life or, just the conditions they're living in or things like that. So sometimes you can help. And then sometimes, in the morning route, the kids who generally say hi, I can tell their personality when they get on the bus in the morning if it's going to be a tough day. Mm-hmm. And so, we try to stress to drivers as teachers, you're the first one the kid sees in the morning. You're setting the stage. So we ask that they always say, good morning, how you doing? Things like that. And I think by driving now and seeing kids get on, it just makes me a little more aware of what kids are really struggling, to be awake at that hour or, things like that. So the little things I don't think I would normally see because I'm not seeing them until 45 minutes later when they walk in the building. But I can tell a little bit about their demeanor and if it's going to be a tougher day for some or not when they get on the bus.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they're all on their best behavior? They're like, oh, the superintendent's driving our bus today. We got to sit upright and not talk as loud.
I think I do get better than probably most would. I'll be honest about it, but then I have a few that I think they just, they get that comfort level or they're just having a bad day and it doesn't matter who it is. Mm-hmm. So, but, to be honest, I'm proud of the rapport that I have with my kids here at school. We're a small enough district. I know them all by name. So it's nice when I can get on the bus and you can greet them by name. And it's funny because they'll say to me when I drop them off here at school in the morning, they'll say, we'll see you tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm coming to school. I'll be there 5 minutes. So I think they forget some of that too. So, but it's been a neat treat. I've thoroughly enjoyed it this year. I've been thankful Jeff hasn't made me drive in awful snowy weather or anything like that. He's been pretty good to me, but it has been a real joy for me to be able to do and, get to see the kids, and parents have been very gracious and they're out there waving to me too, so it's just been a fun experience.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and it definitely gives students a little bit of a different demeanor, a different look at the whole school building and how education works. And you're not only, taking these kids to school, but now you're meeting them in the classroom. And so I think it really connects that greater picture that the school bus is a part of the classroom, and it is, a mobile learning lab, essentially.
Right. Yeah. And it's been interesting because when I first started, the kids were like, "Why are you driving?" And I'm like, well, we needed substitute drivers. And I think that made it more of a real position for them. They see substitutes in their classroom all the time, but I don't think they really thought, well, we might be short substitutes for bus drivers and things like that as well. So yeah, I think it's been, a little bit enlightening for all of us.
Yeah. And if there's no bus drivers, these kids, can't get to school. So
right. Yes.
Definitely plays on that.
Yep.
So looking at the greater picture here, March is Women's History Month. So STN, highlights amazing women in education, school transportation. That's why Wendy's with us today. But what does it mean to you, Wendy, to be a superintendent, but also to be driving, the nation's most precious cargo?
I really look at it. It is really is a privilege for me to be able to do that, to be in the district I'm in. We are a small district, and I think it gives me the liberty to get to know my kids on that personal basis and to be able to do this. If I was in a bigger district, I'm not sure I would have the opportunity to do that or be able to find the time and just be able to do it. I think it might be out of my realm at that point. So I just feel very fortunate to be in the district that I'm in, that we can work together. We can, I have a great team. If I didn't have a team that could lead other things and I don't have to worry about, like when I'm driving a bus, I know if I've got a data review meeting, they're still going to have the data review meeting and go on and do a great job with it, whether I'm at the table or not. So I think having a great staff and people that I'm working with allows me the opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm. And so looking at the month as a whole, why do you think this month is so important in general in highlighting the careers and successes of women around the nation?
I don't want to say it's just women, because I think there are exceptional people in all areas. I think that we've really just tried to recognize women that have stepped out of the ordinary roles and things like that. Bus driving tends to be, I think it was always typically a male position. And then I think we have seen more female bus drivers, that have stepped out because they could do it as a part-time basis and things like that. So I just think it's, we need to do a better job of recognizing people, no matter male or female, for doing the great jobs that they do. So I think it's nice that we take the time to celebrate people in those positions.
Amen. I couldn't have said that better myself. We just wrapped up Love the Bus Month in February, so we were celebrating school bus drivers. And so it definitely is important to recognize people for the job that they do.
Yes. I mean that with all sincerity, that I think people work very hard. If they've made it a career choice, they're spending additional time, energy, money to do a job and to do it well. And we just don't take the time to thank them for the job they do. So whenever we can take those opportunities, I think it's very valuable for us to do so.
Mm-hmm. Almost extend Love the Bus, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's not just 1 month you have to celebrate your school bus drivers.
Right.
If they're doing a good job, you say something.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think sometimes it's not necessarily take it for granted. I think it just doesn't cross our mind as often as it should.
Mm-hmm. And now you see it firsthand. You're getting up early, you're transporting those kids.
Yeah, no, it's a blessing to be able to do that. So yeah, I was a nervous wreck having to take the test and stuff like that, but I'm excited that I did it. I'm very pleased that I've, went ahead and went forward with it. So.
Awesome. Well, Wendy, it's great to have you on. It's great to have this conversation. I think you've just been a bright light. You guys can't see her, but she's smiling through this whole interview. She is just blessing the brightness out of her. So it's been great.
Well, thank you, Taylor. I appreciate your time today.
And if you guys are interested in reading more stories about women in the industry, you can go to stnonline.com/tag/women. But to Wendy's point, if you want to just read stories about amazing people in general, you can go stnonline.com/tag/people. So either one will bring up some awesome people in the industry that you guys probably want to read about.
Hey, special thanks to Wendy Moore, Mr. Ryan Gray, Taylor Hannon. We appreciate you guys coming on, sharing a little bit, talking headlines, talking news. Super interesting about Wendy driving a school bus. Dig into that a little more. Maybe we'll get her out to STN Expo in Reno, July 15th through the 20th. You never know. Shout out to the sponsors this week, TransFinder. We appreciate you guys. And Clean Spray, new sponsor for you. You guys check them out. Visit stnonline.com for all the best coverage on the topics that matter to you most in the school transportation industry. Talk to us more, guys. We need to meet with you. We need to see you. STN Expo 2022, Indianapolis, and STN Expo Reno, and also our Transporting Students with Disabilities Conference. That one's in Dallas. You can check out everything at stnexpo.com. We've got all the shows listed. Get all the information you need. Sign up. Get those discounts. The early bird and super early bird discounts are going to end soon, so be sure and sign up now. Don't forget to tell everyone about the podcast. Go to your iPhone, go to podcasts, search School Transportation Nation. Be sure and add us so we pop up every week so you can listen, hear about everything happening in the School Transportation Nation. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, stnpodcast.com, wherever you listen. We'd love to have you share it with all your friends. Guys, we love you. Appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, Nation.